So welcome to the channel. My name is Karen Duncan. I see that we have some new subscribers, so I'm very happy to have you. And I'm going to do my best to bring you beneficial content. Now, in today's video, what I want to teach you is how to create dependent drop-down list in Microsoft Excel. Now, when we talk about dependent drop-down list, what are we referring to? Well, as you can see here on my screen, under department, I have a list of departments. Now, let's say I selected sales. When I click here on the staff, notice that I get a list of employees that relate to the sales department. Whereas, if I switch this to, let's say, IT, notice that now I get a list of employees that relate solely to the IT department. So this list is dependent on this list. So we can call this list here on the department my primary drop-down list, and we can call this one my dependent drop-down list, because whatever item is selected here, that's going to determine the list that is shown here. So how did I do it? Well, I'm going to demonstrate that for you today. So, first of all, before I can show you how to create a dependent drop-down list, I first need to show you how to create your primary drop-down list. So, the way that you create lists in Microsoft Excel, what you want to do is go to the Data tab on the ribbon, and then you're going over to the Data Tools group here, and you're going to select this icon here. It's called Data Validation. And if you select this, you're going to go to Settings, and under Allow in this box here, you want to just click this arrow, and you're going to select List. Now on the list here, you can see this box here on the Source, and this is where you're going to enter your items that relates to your list. Now, there are two ways that you can populate the items that would be shown in your drop-down list. One way is to manually type the items. So for example, I can type 1. Now I need to separate my items by a comma. So I'm going to type 2, comma, 3. And if I click OK, notice that I get a list of items. So that's one way. Another way to do it is we can pull those items from our cells. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you as well. Again, I'm going to the Data tab on the ribbon. I'm going to the Data Tools group. I'm clicking Data Validation, List, and in Source, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to delete these items here. And this time, I'm just going to click on these cells, drag and select my items. If I click OK, notice that I get my list of items as well. So those are the two methods that you can use to create your drop-down list. Excuse. So that's our primary drop-down list. So let's go ahead and create our primary drop-down list. Now our primary drop-down list is going to be populated using the departments. So if you look over here to my right, you can see that I have 5 departments, and you can see the department heading to the top. So I'm going to use that to create my primary drop-down list. So I'm going to Data Validation. I have List. I'm going to remove these items here. Let's move this across a bit. And let's select all of these items in the heading. Let's click OK. And now, as you can see, we have our departments. And this is our primary drop-down list. Next, we want to create our dependent drop-down list. How are we going to do that? Well, the first thing that we are going to do here is we're going to format each of these department ranges with all of our respective employees into an Excel formatted table. Now, you may be wondering why we're doing that. We'll explain that as we go along. In order to do so, what you're going to do is highlight each of the ranges with the department and the employees, and you're going to press Control and T. Ensure that this box here, my table has headers, is selected, and click OK. And we're going to repeat that for each of these ranges. That's number 2. Number 3. Fourth. And finally, great. Next step is what we're going to do is we're going to select each of these tables. And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to select the table heading, and then you're going to press Control A. Now keep your hand on the Control key and then press the other table heading, Control A again, the other table heading, Control A, and so forth. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to the Formulas tab on the ribbon, and we're going to select Create from Selection. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that top row is selected. Now, once again, there are a couple things here that are going on. You may be wondering, why are we doing these things? We'll explain it as we go along. Don't worry. So we're going to click OK. Now, you did not notice anything happen just now, but what Excel actually just did is it named each of these tables based on the name in the table heading. So if we were to type the name of that table using an equal sign first, anywhere inside of this workbook, Excel is going to realize that we are referring to that table. To prove to you that this is true, if I type equal and I type administration, notice that administration comes up. I could press tab to select that, and if I click enter, as you can see, it spills the list of employees in that respective department. Now, because I'm using Microsoft 365 version of Excel, that's why I had the employees spilled like that. But if you're using a version prior to Microsoft 365, you're not going to see what just happened. But to prove to you that this actually works is if you click inside of the formula bar here and you click administration and you press the F9 key, you're going to see the list of employees that relates to that respective department. So that shows you that Excel has now referred that name in the heading of each of those tables to the respective departments. Good? Great. So we can delete this. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to introduce you to a function called Indirect. And we're going to use the Indirect function to help us create our dependent drop-down list. Now, Indirect is not one of the most popular functions in Excel, but it's actually very useful in some cases, and this is one of those cases. Now, what does the Indirect function do? Well, I'm going to give you a sort of textbook definition here. It basically returns a value when given a cell reference or a reference to an object in Excel. Now, I know that's very theoretical, so to explain what I mean, let's just say we typed test here in A1. If I click down here and I press, or I type A1, came here and I type equal indirect, select A1, close bracket. Notice what happens. Excel returns me the word test. So we have to give Excel a reference in the form of a text string, and it will return us the value that relates to that reference. So this can be used to refer to our respective tables or the references or the names that we used for those respective tables. And what Excel is going to do is it's going to return the values or the items in the respective tables. So to demonstrate this, let's just delete these items here. If I click here and I select equal indirect and I select the value in department, we get a ref error there, but if we select one of these departments, notice what happens. As you can see, Excel spills the values that relates to the reference that relates to the respective table. Now, once again, if you're using a version of Excel prior to Microsoft 365, you're not going to see the names for each of the tables spill like this. But once again, if you click here and you go into your formula bar and you click the F9 key, you're going to see the list of names that relates to that specific department. So we can delete that. So we're going to use the indirect function to pull in those names that relate to each department. So let's click data, or let's make sure that we select our cell. We're going to click data. We're going to the data tools group, settings. We're going to select list. And this time, instead of typing the names that we want or referring to a cell reference, we're going to enter the indirect formula. So we're going to type equal indirect. We're going to type an open bracket, and we're going to select B3. Close bracket, and let's click OK. Notice what happens now. As you can see there, Excel is now populating me the information or the employees that relate to administration. Let's say we select another department. Let's say we select consulting. Now we get the employees that relate to consulting. So that's how you create a dependent drop-down list in Excel. This is by no means the only way to do it, but I think that this is a very easy way and it's very efficient, especially if you're creating dependent drop-down lists for just a few items as we did here. Now I'm going to drop in one bonus tip for you. Notice that if I select the human resource department, when I click in my drop-down list here, notice that nothing comes up. And the reason that that happens is because if we go into our formulas tab and we go to the define names group and we go into name manager, notice that human resources or human resource is here as a item that we named, but notice that the heading here is different than the heading here. And the reason for that is because you cannot name an item or an object in Excel using a space. You can include an underscore, and by default Excel included an underscore here. So if I go here into my heading and I include an underscore, firstly let's refresh our primary drop-down list, and notice now we get the items that relate to human resources. So that's how you create a dependent drop-down list in Excel. I hope you found this beneficial. Let me know in the comments below what are the types of videos you want me to provide, whether it relates to Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, you name it, just let me know down in the comments. If you appreciated what I shared today, I'd really appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up below. That would do a lot for the channel and help me to continue to bring content like this to you. And also, if you want to continue getting this content, then consider subscribing to the channel. So I want to thank you very much for dropping by, and bye.